Which players did we add to Breakouts 2.0? Find out next on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Thursday, March 6th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. We're just going to rattle off some Breakouts 2.0. We'll go back and forth here, Scott, and you are up first in addition to Breakouts 2.0.
Going to go with Mackenzie Gore here. If you'll remember, Mackenzie Gore was dominating at the start of the year, 2024. It looked like he was having a breakout then hit a rough patch in the middle of the season where he went back to being kind of unusable, and then turned things around at the end of the year again. Final 7 starts, Mackenzie Gore had a 155 ERA, 0.91 whip, and even 10K per 9. And the walk rate was much improved. That's always been a problem for him. I remember reading during that turnaround late in the year him crediting the training staff for helping him get through an issue. He didn't specify what it was. But, a lot of times when players slump, there is a physical issue going on that we just don't hear about that's contributing to it. And so I suspect something like that was going on with Gore, just looking at the way his season started and finished, just at the really weird the misstep there at the middle of the season. It was just odd, and that comment to go with it was kind of cryptic. So anyway, I think that's reason enough to like Mackenzie Gore as a breakout this year. But for extra credit, I'm going to point out he had a 340 BABIP for the season, the good starts and the bad starts combined. 340 BABIP. That was the second highest among qualifying pitchers. I don't know that he needs better batted ball luck to dominate as long as he's missing bats like he's capable of. I think that breakout could still happen, but you would expect that BABIP to go down some too.
All right, for me, Jared Jones burst onto the scene last year. His first 7 starts, a 2.63 ERA, a 0.78 whip, 11.4 K per 9, nearly a 19% swinging strike rate. Started to take a step back. Control was a problem for him. He did get hurt, dealt with a lat injury, and once he returned, was not the same pitcher at all. But what I like this offseason is that he is focusing on developing other pitches, his changeup and his curveball. He's also added a sinker, and I think he can really use a third pitch because the fastball and slider, they look really good. They accounted for 84% of his pitches last season, but I think he needs a little bit of a different look. So he's conscious of that. He's worked on those pitches. He's added a sinker that he's used so far here in spring training. And I think all of those things will culminate, not with him getting back to the pitcher he was early last season, but, a low to mid 3s ERA over a strikeout per inning. I can see that happening for Jared Jones this upcoming season. Scott, back over to you for another pitching breakout you like this season.
Yeah, another one I like this year is Nick Lodolo. I've liked him for a long time. His curveball is such a good bat-missing pitch. And sort of like I was saying for Mackenzie Gore, early on last season, it seemed like Nick Lodolo was breaking out. First 11 starts. Lodolo had a 2.76 ERA, 1.01 whip, and 9.6 K per 9. Then he got a blister on his left middle finger that he mentioned at the time, when he came back from the injury, it was affecting his grip on that ever important curveball. And you could see from the data, the movement profile had changed on the pitch. It was clearly affecting him, that blister. And I think probably his effort to try and correct that grip led to the finger strain that ultimately ended his season. And I remember reading this offseason about how he made a point to try and address the blister issue to toughen up the skin on that finger so that he wouldn't have to go through that again. It just seemed like it wrecked his it wrecked his best pitch. It wrecked his stat line. It wrecked his season. This silly little blister on his left middle finger. But as long as it's behind him now, I think he could pick up where he left off in those first 11 starts with really high end numbers.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
One of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
Welcome back in FBT Express Breakouts 2.0. I want to talk about a reliever. Jeff Hoffman signed with the Blue Jays this offseason on a 3-year, $33 million deal. As soon as he signed, he basically was named the closer, or at least the top saves option for the Blue Jays this upcoming season. And he really has broken out already. I mean, over the past 2 years, Jeff Hoffman has a 2.28 ERA, a .94 whip, 12 K per nine, a 16.4% swinging strike rate. We just haven't felt the brunt of that breakout yet because he wasn't the closer for the Phillies. He did mix in some saves here and there, but he wasn't the main guy. Now with the Blue Jays, he should be the main closer for their team, give you good ratios, good strikeouts. The downside with Jeff Hoffman is that he did fail 2 physicals this offseason. Apparently the Orioles and the Braves were both interested in signing him, but everything that we learned was they wanted to sign him as a starting pitcher. So I think there would be a little bit more concerns about a shoulder and being able to throw more innings throughout the course of a season. But as a reliever, being asked to throw 60 to 70 innings, something like that, I think Jeff Hoffman's capable of doing that and doing so at a very high level this upcoming season. Scott, back to you for your final Breakout 2.0.
For my final Breakout 2.0, I am going to see if I can find the tab I just closed that has the ever critical numbers I need. Okay, Chris Bubich. Chris Bubich of the Royals is my third breakout choice here. And if you'll remember, early on in 2023, he had introduced a new slider to his arsenal. He had started throwing his changeup harder, and the data he was putting up with those arsenal changes was just popping. Lance Brozdowski was really keyed in on it and pointing to how good Bubich looked and he was shaping up to have a breakout season then in 2023, but almost immediately afterward, tore the ligament in his elbow, needed Tommy John surgery. Came back last season in relief, did Bubich. And during that time, he put together a 2.67 ERA, a 102 whip, 11.6 K per nine. He was dominating out of the bullpen. And this year, this spring, the Royals are planning to put him back in the rotation. He is the leading contender for the 5th spot. I will note that when he was dominating in relief, the changeup was harder. The slider was still there. Those pitches were playing like they were early in 2023 when it was generating excitement. So we have more proof of concept now. We know that Bubich also has sustained those gains from Tommy John surgery. Now it's just a matter of him applying them over a starter's workload again. And, so far this spring, the velocity is holding. So I'm really encouraged by that. I think Bubich is being overlooked. He might be the highest upside of all the Sparps, frankly. And he's getting maybe the least attention of all of them.
Yeah, Chris Bubich, definitely a name you need to know in your head-to-head points leagues on CBS. He has that RP eligibility.
He's not higher upside than Jackson Jobe. I should point that out. I should have done that on the full-length podcast because I used the same line. No, doesn't have as much upside as Jackson Jobe. But apart from Jackson Jobe, Chris Bubich might have the most upside of all the Sparps.
Final breakout for me is going to be Kyle Manzardo with the Guardians. A former top prospect, has proven he can hit in the minors. Last year at AAA, hit 267, a 398 on base with 20 home runs and a 946 OPS. He got called up earlier in the season, did not work out. He got sent back to the minors, but his second stint in the majors looked much better in September, where Manzardo hit 270 with 5 home runs and 873 OPS, an 11% barrel rate, 51% fly ball, 49% pull rate. So lots of fly balls and to the pull side in Progressive Field, which last year played much better for left-handed power. I think that is a recipe for success here for Kyle Manzardo. I think they're ready to just let him be the DH. Maybe he doesn't play against left-handed pitching to start the season, but if he gets off to a nice start, I think that his role can grow with the team. The problem for fantasy is he's only util only to start the year, but I do think he'll mix in at first base a little bit and hopefully gain that eligibility. So util only to start the year, but I do think we have, 25 plus home run upside with Kyle Manzardo this season. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.